what you build upon, it's very important. Having a solid foundation is very important. For example, we all know the story of the three little pigs, and one built his house on sand, one on something else, and one on good foundation. And when that big bad wolf came by to blow on the house stood, it wouldn't fall. Because the story, or the moral of that story was, it was built on a good foundation. Well, it's the same way when knowing who you are and beginning to express your intrinsic rights and your human rights and freedoms. You have to have a good foundation. Because having that good foundation, it's a good thing. Having a solid foundation in your understanding, it helps you as you continue to grow to avoid confusion. To avoid confusion, because there's so many voices out there that have something to say, some good, some not so good. Nevertheless, if you have your own personal solid foundation, then when you come across other voices, it'll be harder for those voices to confuse you. Not that those voices may be doing it on purpose, nevertheless. So having a good foundation is important. Here in Canada, there's a few different laws that are in operation. Common law and, if you will say, public law. Now, law, through enactments and regulations, are what applies to the legal person, to the person. Now, in the laws, there are subjects. Subjects. Look at it as being different players within the law. And in the law, there is a structure to it. And that structure is formed in a hierarchy structure. A hierarchy structure. That means that there are different positions, different levels. If you will look at it at work, you have a boss, a manager, the owner. That's a hierarchy structure, different levels. And in each level, there's different responsibilities and powers in those levels. That's how the law is structured here for us. Now, within this laws, it's being played by human beings. Men and women are playing or acting a role or occupying a position in this play. So what you need to realize is that in the enactments and regulations, there are different subjects and different players. And according to the position or the role that you assume or don't assume, you are entitled to certain rights and freedoms. In the laws that they've created, that they are trying to use to govern us, when you look into them and study them, it comes out very clearly that there are different subjects within the laws. There are different designations or titles being given to men or human beings, and these subjects can take recognition. Recognition. Now, in their laws, you see that there is an everyone. When you look into their laws, you'll see it described everyone who, or everyone can, or everyone has. That's a designation, that's a title. And a human being, a man or a woman, can take the title or designation of everyone. Now, in their laws, they also have the designation or subject or player. In their laws, they also have a designation or a title termed natural person. There's a subject that's called a natural person. And again, there's a subject in their laws, a player, a role that you can assume called citizen, Canadian citizen. There is another designation or a role that you can assume under the title of anyone. Again, there is another title or designation or recognition that you can take under the term of person. Person. Now, also, you can take the title or term of human being, meaning man or woman. When you see the word or expression, designation, player or subject, everyone, you know that within that designation it is included the full fundamental freedoms and rights of the man, woman, human being. Now, their fundamental freedoms and rights can be removed through a due process of law, what they call the fundamental principles of justice. Everyone is removed from his liberties and freedoms. Everyone also can include all the other designations that we just saw before, such as citizen or person. Now, when we apply everyone to these designations here have already been stripped of their fundamental freedoms through the principles of justice. So they're not standing as an everyone who would be considered a man and a woman or a human being. They're standing as an everyone under the title of citizen or person, which strips them of their rights and freedoms. Everyone, as the human being, that everyone possesses fundamental freedoms, and that everyone is not a subject. Now, everyone, as a citizen or person, that everyone owes allegiance to the Queen and to the government, for that everyone is a subject and a servant through the qualification, designation, or role of citizen and person. Now, that everyone pays for its rights and benefits and privileges. As you begin to learn the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Freedoms and the International Covenants, you see the article that it states in there, everyone has the right to recognition as a person before the law. You, as a human being, as an everyone who possesses fundamental rights and freedoms and are not a subject, can, through your own will and consent, take recognition as a legal person or a citizen or any other designation that I've shared with you. That you can do. But most other designations, except for that of everyone, being interpreted as meaning human being or man and woman, most other designations will strip you of your fundamental rights and freedoms. There'll be a due process of law that has been applied to you, the human being, and has stripped you of your rights and freedoms, and is placing you under this designation with less rights and freedoms that were originally intrinsically yours, according to who you were. If you're a Canadian citizen, then hopefully you don't kill, and you shouldn't kill. We all know that. If you're a person, a legal person, or a Canadian citizen, hopefully you don't steal. We shouldn't steal. Hopefully we all know that. Now, when you look into the criminal code, you're not going to find it stating that no Canadian citizen should steal, or no Canadian citizen should murder. It's going to state that everyone who steals or everyone who kills. Now, why would they use that designation, everyone, instead of the designation of a person or a Canadian citizen? If we look into the same code and we look for rules on hunting or fishing, you won't find the word everyone. You'll only find the word person. the designation there won't be everyone. So why is it when they're dealing with stealing or killing or other laws along these lines that they use the designation everyone to make sure that they include the human being or the man and woman? Because if you look where it speaks about everyone, this is the expression of the common law. In common law, it is well known that a man or a woman should not steal. A man and a woman should not murder. Therefore, when you look into the laws, you will find that the expression of everyone is dealing with common law. And that's why the lawmakers were careful to use the expression of everyone when the expression of common law was being sought or brought forth. Now, where it was enactments or regulations or statutes that are not having to deal with common law, such as how many fish you can fish when you're hungry to eat, or for those who hunt animals, personally I don't, but for those who do and eat those animals, how many animals you can hunt, you will not find the designation in law as person, as everyone. You will find it only as person. So in the law, you are going to find in different areas, in different subjects, according to what they are trying to regulate or control, which subject they are talking about. And when you see everyone, it should draw your attention to it. Because somehow, some way, they're saying that is an expression of common law, and therefore you as a man or woman, you as the human being, are bound to that expression of law also. Black Laws, 5th edition. Individual. As a noun, this term denotes a single person, as distinguished from a group or classes of persons, and also, very commonly, a private or natural person, as distinguished from a partnership, corporation, or association. But it is said that this restrictive signification is not necessarily inherent in the word, and that it may, in proper cases, include artificial persons. See also person. As an adjective, individual means pertaining or belonging to or characteristics of one single person, either in opposition to a firm, association, or corporation, or considered in his relation thereto. In their laws, you find another term, another designation, another player, and, if you will, another subject. That going by the term or title of individual. Individual. Now, in black laws, we see that individual refers to single, or one, as distinguished from a group or a class. Now, here they mean by classes of persons or group of persons. For example, there are United States of America. They are citizens of their country, and we have here in Canada Canadian citizens. These are two distinct different groups or classes of persons. So when you say individual, you are referring to something that is single, something that stands out alone. Now, very commonly, black laws goes on to describe it as a private or natural person, as distinguished, states again, from a corporation or an artificial person. So it's very clearly written, simply in Black Laws Dictionary, Article 5, that an individual is something that is single, someone, and everyone who is single, that is distinguished from the artificial person. Now they say commonly, okay, very commonly, but does not say only. Notice that. It doesn't say only a private natural person, but it says very commonly. Because when you find in the expression of law, when they're not talking about the artificial person, the legal person, they use the term or the designation natural person or private person. But it doesn't mean that that is inclusive, that that's all that it means. So, When you title individual, you're talking about something that is single. Remember that. Now you, as a human being, or if you prefer to say I'm a man or a woman, you, under that designation, walk into here as individual, with all your rights and freedoms, remaining one, distinguished from any group or class of persons or subjects that are in operation in law. And you can, if you so desire, as the individual, play the role of the natural person, play the role of private person. And in doing so, you are afforded certain rights and freedoms, duties, benefits that you would not receive if you stayed in the role of artificial person. However, when you're the artificial person, you are under obligation and you are controlled. When you are the natural person, you have more certain rights and freedoms and benefits that are available to you. However, you have no obligation as the individual, who is the man or woman or human, to walk in or step into the role of natural person. You can claim the role or designation of individual under their laws where it profits you, while remaining with your fundamental rights and freedoms as the human being. Acknowledging the importance, role of the international cooperation for and the valuable work of the individuals, groups, and associations in contributing to the effective elimination of all violations of human rights and fundamental freedoms of peoples and individuals, including in relation to mass, flagrant, or systematic violations, such as those resulting from apartheid, all forms of racial discrimination, colonialism, foreign domination or occupation, aggression or threats to national sovereignty, national unity, or territorial integrity, and from the refusal to recognize the right of peoples to determine to self-determination and the right of every people to exercise full sovereignty over its wealth and natural resources. So the preamble there said that acknowledging the important work of individuals for the effective elimination of all violations of human rights and fundamental freedoms of peoples and individuals. If you've watched some of my videos, I hope you've come to understand that when they refer to peoples, they're referring to the person, the artificial person, the legal person. Because the peoples of Canada, the Canadian citizens, they're persons. So when they refer to people, it's always referring to the citizens of the state, the legal person. So here they say, for the fundamental rights and freedoms of peoples and individuals. So if they were referring to here on individuals as meaning the legal person, this constructive sentence would make no sense, because it would be stating that it would be for the rights and fundamental freedoms of legal persons and legal persons. No. So they distinctly made the qualification by using the word individuals to make sure that they can include the single, which would be the human being, or the man and woman who is free. So, acknowledging the important work of individuals, men and women, human beings, one, who are free, for the effective elimination of all violations of human rights and fundamental freedoms of peoples. So when we see peoples' rights and freedoms being taken away, or the fundamental human rights and freedoms of human beings, or men and women, being stripped away. Article 1. Everyone has the right, individually and in association with others, to promote and to strive for the protection and realization of human rights and fundamental freedoms at the national and international levels. In the DRR, Article 1, it states that everyone has the right, individually and in association with others. So everyone in association. Well, if everyone is in an association, we know that an association is a legal person under law. And that would include a Canadian citizen, or all other definitions of a legal person, corporation, whatever it may be. Everyone in association. But this article also states that everyone as an individual, individually. Remember, single. And that word individual means not a legal person. Totally separated from all of this. Now, everyone individually as a human being, a man or woman. Remember, you could also go under natural person or private person, which you don't really want to do. Keep the human being to the man and woman. But everyone individually should also strive for the teaching and the promotion of human rights and freedoms. And this DDR or DRR, it protects you and is there to help you when you decide that that is what you want to do with your life, that that is what you want to promote, instead of promoting, well, I'll leave it there. Everyone individually has the right to know, teach, promote, share, learn about human rights and fundamental freedoms. That's everyone's right, and they can choose to operate that. Now, everyone has the right to also disrespect human rights, to enjoy entertainment, to be taught how to act and function as a person. Everyone has that right. Now, you have the choice which rights you want to express and which rights you want to follow and operate under. Now look what the International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights say about education, and look at the distinction that comes out. The International Covenant on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights, Article 13, thus states, parties to the present covenant recognize the right of everyone to education. They agree that education shall be directed to the full development of the human personality and the sense of its dignity, and shall strengthen the respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. They further agree that education shall enable all persons to participate effectively in a free society. So in the International Covenant, it says that everyone's education shall be directed at the promotion and the teaching and the respect of the fundamental rights and freedoms of the human being. Now it also states that everyone, and they changed the designation, as a person, their education shall be directed to participate in society. Two different operations going on. One, the responsibility of the state to teach everyone through education what are their rights and freedoms, their fundamental rights and freedoms as a human being, as a man and a woman, which totally surprises people when you begin to teach them. Some people can't even believe it. they don't even accept it. They believe that it's some type of conspiracy because they start to learn that there's so much things that have been done to us as human beings here in our own country. Nevertheless, or everyone's, as a person, its education is directed for the functioning of society, which is, and we all know it when we're young, 7, 8 years old. Why are we in school? Well, I'm looking to get a good education so that I can have a good job and that I can get married and have children, buy a house, have a nice car, and buy some material goods. And then I will be happy. When we go home, when we are young, and watch the television tells us the same thing. Buy this car, and you can speed around, and you will be happy. Buy a nice house, and you will be happy. Find a beautiful woman, or a beautiful man, depending on what sex you are, and you will be happy. So that is where our education is directed into society. Now, as a human being, as a man and woman, your education was supposed to be totally different. And as I've shared with people on YouTube before, Canada only spends $3.5 million a year teaching or disseminating human rights and fundamental freedoms. But they spend many, many more millions of dollars every year checking racehorses all across Canada to make sure that the trainer is not pumping them up with drugs and steroids, and providing security for racetracks to make sure that no one comes and steals the money or harms the horses on the day of the races. So we know where the priorities of the government resides. Article 15. The state has the responsibility to promote and facilitate the teaching of human rights and fundamental freedoms at all levels of education, and to ensure that all those responsible for training lawyers, law enforcement officers, the personnel of the armed forces, and public officials include appropriate elements of human rights teachings in their training program. Article 15. The state has the responsibility to promote and facilitate the teaching of human rights and fundamental freedoms at all levels of education, and to ensure that all those responsible for training lawyers, law enforcement officers, the personnel of the armed forces, and public officials include appropriate elements of human rights teachings in their training program. We know that everyone, individually or in association, has the right, no obligation, to promote, to know, to understand, to teach, to share what it is that are our fundamental rights and freedoms as men and women, human beings. Now, Article 15 says the state parties had the obligation, the responsibility to promote, facilitate the teachings of human rights and fundamental freedoms at all levels of education. This included training lawyers, police officers, army, and the public officials concerning the fundamental rights and freedoms of the human being. So there was an obligation upon those in the hierarchy structure to teach those who would be occupying or playing the role, the subject of lawyer, police, army, or public official. What are these rights and fundamental freedoms? And how do they affect the individual operating in this commercial system? Through my own experience, the state party here in Canada has failed miserably. You can see it, again, I'll use the example, $3.5 million a year to teach our fundamental rights and our fundamental freedoms. Reaffirming also the importance of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and the International Covenants on Human Rights as basic elements of international efforts to promote universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedoms, and the importance of other human rights instruments adopted within the United Nations system, as well as those at the regional level, stressing that all members, including Canada, of the international community shall fulfill, jointly and separately, their solemn obligation to promote and encourage respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, for all without distinction of any kind, including distinctions based on race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth or other status, and reaffirming the particular importance of achieving international cooperation to fulfill this obligation according to the Charter.